All right, so look, gang, we blew the account, but hear me out, right? Hear me out. It's honestly, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's a couple weeks later. I didn't want to make this video at first, you know what I'm saying? And then after that, time just got away from me, but no excuses, we're back. You know what I'm saying? It's late night right now in the crib. The kids should be asleep right now. You know what I'm saying? Got the victory green on. Mac on the wrist, but we blew the 50K account. We were funded, now we're not. But when you think about it, and when I think back on it, as I've reflected on it, right, it only leveled me up. It only leveled me up, right? You can get down on yourself, and I was pissed the first, I say 24, first 24 hours, sick, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like we live well. We're living good. Like I live pretty good. Like I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? But I'm nowhere near where I want to be. So the funded account was definitely something I was excited about. You know, I was excited to document, you know, the process of even, you know, getting to my first payout and all that type of stuff, which I will still do, right? But you can't do it unless you take these L's, right? You can't do it unless you learn how to not do it, right? I listen to a lot of motivational speakers. A big person to me is Tony Robbins. And he was explaining how, you know, I'll break down two things. He was explaining about how in order to succeed, for one, there's like a system to it. And just to make it short, you first need to know where you're going. You need to know why why you want to go there. You need to know where you're going, why you want to go there. There's like four of them, but the last one is you need to understand there's two last ones. You need to understand how to identify if what you're doing is working, and you need to know how to identify if what you're doing is not working. And if it's not working, then you need to know how to pivot or be willing to pivot, right? You need to be willing to change your approach, right? So the premise of everything, and I'm rambling, but I'm really looking for my damn laptop. It might be upstairs. The premise of everything, I'm about to post y'all up on this right here. The premise of everything is basically that you need to know how to pivot, right? The motherfucker who invented, you know, the light bulb, right? Back then when they were using, you know, candles and stuff, and dude was like, this is a Thomas Edison. Dude was like, yeah, like I'm about to invent like the fucking light bulb, whatever the case may be. And he tried like over 1,000 times, like, you know what I'm saying, to create it, right? And one of his friends in one of the tests and one of the trials, right, he almost blew up himself and one of his friends. And one of his friends was like, you know, like, when are you gonna like let this go? When are you gonna like, you know, realize that this is just not something that's possible? You know what I'm saying? Why don't you just understand that you failed? And dude was like, I didn't fail. I just figured out another way how to not do this, right? I figured out another way that doesn't work to make the light bulb, right? But I did figure out a way to create an explosion, which might be handy in the future, right? That's the mentality you have to have in order to get anywhere, right? Yes, you can be down for a second, but you got to be able to get up, realize, hey, what did I do? What did I do good? What could I have done better? What was the reason why we didn't succeed at this attempt, right? So when looking back at it, the biggest thing is the flaw, not in the strategy, but the flaw in the human behavior, the flaw in the actions that I was taking, right? The biggest flaw that I had was taking trades outside of my trading session, taking trades that didn't have to do with my trading plan, right? taking board trades, right? The same way that youngins, like, you'll hop on Instagram and you'll find yourself scrolling and you didn't intend to scroll, like you didn't intend to get on Instagram and even be on Instagram, right? Is the same way that traders will get onto TradingView and convince themselves to take a trade, right? And then be in a trade that they shouldn't have been in the first place, right? I don't know if it's only me, but if you've ever just randomly got on your phone, the next thing you know, you're on social media, the same thing happens with trading, right? You get bored. It's like a feedback loop, right? It's like you get a trigger, you get bored, you end up on your phone, right? And you end up on social media, you end up scrolling. It's like a instant gratification. Same thing with trading. You'll end up on your phone, you'll get bored, you'll end up on your phone, you'll find yourself on TradingView, you'll convince yourself to take a trade, right? How do we counteract that? Like, I've honestly been trying to figure out how to counteract or how to counteract that behavior, right? Because that behavior is not only what's keeping me back in trading, but it's keeping a lot of people back in trading. And for a while, I would like delete. When I realized it, I was like, okay, after my trading session, I'm just gonna delete TradingView, right? I'm just gonna delete TradingView, and then I'll re-download it come the next morning when it's time to trade again. That was helping. But me personally, I could still go and I can still download TradingView before the next morning. I can still, and I to be honest, that's what I would do. It got to a point where I would delete it and then I'd, re-download it because I'm like, I'd let myself convince myself that there was a reason for me to re-download it. Whatever. I'm not going to keep rambling. What's the solution? What has been the solution moving forward, right? As I took the time off, it's been like almost 2 weeks since I blew the 50K account. I talked to my wife about it, and I don't know why, but if you have somebody close to you that you can trust and has been there through all the ups and downs, tell them about the shit that you have going on, because more times than not, they'll have something valuable that you could have been missing the whole time. And quite frankly, she did. She's like, you can like set like time limits and like shit on certain apps. And I was like, no, I didn't know that. Like I've just been deleting the app when it wasn't time for me when it was outside of my trading. She's like, no, like you can set time limits, you can set passcodes, you can do like downtime. So after a certain time, like the app just closes off and it's password protected. I'm like, fuck it, run it. Now, 5 o'clock on the dot, TradingView closes for me. I don't have the password, right? Because I've proven to myself that I'm not capable of having that type of responsibility or being or fighting my own human impulses, right? A lot of people want to talk about discipline, but I believe that discipline comes down to the environment that you're in. If you create an environment that makes it easier for you to be disciplined, then you'll be more disciplined than not. If you're in an environment that makes it easy for you not to be disciplined, then you can't expect yourself to be disciplined. If you want to eat better and you have a bunch of junk food in your pantry, it's not the chances of you consistently eating better is not going to be very high, right? If you want to wake up early, right, and go to the gym, but your clothes are not prepped, and you know what I'm saying, you're not going to sleep at a good time so that you have the rest to be able to wake up at that time, right? Then chances are you're not going to consistently get up and work out on, you know what I'm saying? Your environment dictates a lot of it, right? So instead of making like it hard for myself, I'm just like, hey, let's set a passcode. Boom, she has the passcode, I don't have it. 5 o'clock hits, there's no way I can possibly trade, because I do all my analysis. I set my take profits, I set my stop losses on TradingView, and then I go take the trade on whatever platform I'm trading on. If I can't go on TradingView, I can't go take a trade on any platform because I don't analyze on any other platform, right? that's just what it is. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I believe is going to level me up, right? And I'll bring it back to Tony Robbins to kind of like end this off. He was explaining how he picked up golf, right? And his instructor, like the first time they went out, like he played a great, round of golf and honestly beat his instructor, right? And then he came back out the next session or whatever, and it was just like boom, he was chunking it. Shit was going in the water, shit was everywhere. It was bad. And his instructor explained to him like, hey, like a lot of the times, like you're like centimeters away from a great shot or a bad shot, right? You might have hit a horrible shot, but if you would have hit it 2 centimeters, a little lower or 2 centimeters more to the right, like it would have been the perfect shot, right? Centimeters. Then he was explaining how he was friends with a plastic surgeon that was doing millions and millions, like really good at what he did. And he had a book, the plastic surgeon had a book that was kind of like broke down the perfect like facial measurements, right? And he noticed that the difference between ugly and like beautiful was usually only a couple centimeters, right? Now I say that to say that a lot of us think that we're like light years away from creating success or getting the results that we want. But quite frankly, we're usually only a couple centimeters, a couple small tweaks away from getting the results that we want, right? You just need to figure out what those centimeters are for you. So for me, I have purchased a new 50K account. I'll be starting that tomorrow. I don't have my watch on, but I'll be starting that tomorrow. Today's Sunday, the 14th, I think, or the 15th, one of the two. We're in June, so summer's just getting started, but tomorrow we'll take our first trade on there if the markets allow it. And yeah, I'm just gonna document it. Last time I dropped the video, I was already like, when I first started documenting it, I was already like halfway through the funded account, and then I had got funded on the second video. Now I'm starting fresh from a phase one. So I'm gonna document how this goes, and hopefully, God willing, you know what I'm saying, this account will not only be able to get passed, but also make it to a payout, and then we'll decide what we're doing from there. You know what I'm saying? Probably keep it alive as long as we can while we fund a live account to the point where ideally at the end of the year, I want to have a live account that's like 10 grand plus. So that's the goal. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video.